Richard Holbrooke.
President Barack Obama is expected to announce a reassessment of his Afghan strategy later this week. But it will be done without Richard Holbrooke, who before his death worked vigorously to implement U.S. economic strategy in both Afghanistan and Pakistan. The reassessment comes a year after President Obama ordered additional U.S. troops to Afghanistan as part of a strategy that could bring some forces home as soon as July 2011 and end combat operations by 2014. Earlier this month, Mr. Obama made his second surprise trip to Afghanistan since becoming commander-in-chief. A member of parliament in Afghanistan, Dawood Sultan Zoy, says Mr. Holbrooke will be difficult to replace.
He played a very important role. He was a very important figure. And of course, the mission was also very big for anybody. So unfortunately, his life was not long enough to see that mission through.
Holbrooke also made efforts to forge closer relations with Pakistan, trying to convince Pakistani leaders to cooperate more closely with the U.S. in its fight against terrorism. The spokesman for the Pakistani Foreign Ministry, Abdul Basit, says it is important for relations between Washington and Islamabad to move forward.
I think this is the legacy of Mr. Holbrooke, and Mr. Holbrooke very much wanted this relationship to grow. So I think we would be doing all what can be done in order to sustain the legacy of Mr. Holbrooke.
Lisa Curtis at the Heritage Foundation in Washington says Holbrooke's successor faces some serious challenges.
The first one is Pakistan, and convincing the Pakistanis to crack down on the Taliban sanctuaries, convincing the Pakistanis to work in tandem with the international community on Afghanistan rather than at odds with the international community. And you know, the fact that somebody as seasoned as Richard Holbrooke, that this issue of Pakistan still even confounded him, I think tells us something about the difficulty of dealing with the Pakistanis.
Curtis says the biggest problem is going to be the rapport between Holbrooke's successor and Afghan President Hamid Karzai.
Any successor to Holbrooke is going to have to deal with the fact that President Karzai is becoming increasingly difficult to work with, and somehow we'll have to figure out how we can get the U.S. government, the Afghan government, to be working in coordination and cooperation.
Curtis says, considering the changing situation in Pakistan and Afghanistan, Mr. Obama should fill the vacuum created by Holbrooke's death as soon as possible, so there is no break in the momentum he achieved. Ravi, Khanna, VOA News, Washington.